Okay, good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the November meeting of the Pennsylvania Board of Education to order. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The November meeting of the Pennsylvania Board of Education to order. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Did it again?
Roll call.
Sure. Mr. Belchick.
Here.
Dr. Boston.
Here.
Mrs. Eckenrode.
Here.
Mr. Hardesty.
Here.
Mr. Larch.
Here.
Lennick is excused. Mrs. Williams is excused. Mrs. Tate.
Here.
Mr. Packer.
Here.
Myself, Mr. Johnston.
Here.
Mrs. Dolges is excused. Mrs. Zeglin.
Here.
You on?
She should be on.
Here.
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 Oh.
Second road.
Here.
Okay.
Mr. Hardesty.
Mr. Grimaldi.
Mr. Larch. Here.
Mr. Dalton.
Lennick is excused. Mrs.
Mr.
Williams.
Gramling.
State.
Here.
Mr. Saffron.
Myself.
Can we just pause for 1 second?
Mrs. Dolges is excused. Mrs. Zeglin.
Here.
She should be on.
Here.
Here.
Yeah, do you have that plan?
Here.
Mr. Hardesty. Mr. Grimaldi. Mr. Larch. Here. Mr. Dalton. Lennick is excused. Mrs. Williams. Mr. Gramling. State.
Here.
Mr. Saffron. Myself. Can we just pause for 1 second? Mrs. Dolges is excused. Mrs. Zeglin.
Here.
She should be on.
Here.
Yeah, do you have that?
Here.
Mr. Hardesty. Mr. Grimaldi. Mr. Larch. Here. Mr. Dalton. Lennick is excused. Mrs. Williams. Mr. Gramling. State.
Here.
Mr. Saffron. So can we just pause for 1 second? Mrs. Dolges is excused. Mrs. Zeglin.
Here.
She should be on. Good.
Here.
Okay, any presentations?
There are none.
Okay, can we have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I'll make the motion. Second.
Motion by Mrs. Tate, second by Mrs. Eckenrode.
Okay, are there any that oppose? Okay, the agenda will stand approved as printed. At this time, the board will hear citizens' remarks. Any this evening? Okay, the minutes of our meeting included in your packet of information. Can we have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Motion by Mr. Hardesty, second by Mr. Larch.
Are there any questions? Any oppose? Okay, the minutes will stand approved as printed. The business report is also included. Can we have a motion to approve the business report?
Make
I'll
the
make
motion.
Second.
So I have a motion by Mrs. Eckenrode and a second by Mr. Belchick.
Are there any questions? Does anybody oppose? Okay, the business report is approved as presented. Presentation of bills. The general fund has bills totaling $203,866.46. The athletic fund, $3,285.14. The cafeteria fund, $32,066.71. Can we have a motion to authorize payment of the bills?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Larch, a second by Mrs. Tate.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Tate,
Yes.
Mr. Packer,
Yes.
Mr. Belchick,
Yes.
Dr. Boston,
Yes.
Mrs. Eckenrode,
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty,
Yes.
Mr. Larch.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, any program updates?
There are none.
Okay, that brings us to our reports for this evening, beginning with the superintendent report, Mr. Johnson.
Okay, good evening. Before I begin my report, I do want to ask Mr. Muscatello to share with you two documents that he has shared with you this evening. For those of you that are watching us this evening, we have already started looking at our budget process for the next school year. That begins at this point, working with the Budget and Finance Committee. Mr. Muscatello already shared with the board some documents last week, but this evening he wants to present two more pieces. So go ahead, Mr. Muscatello.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Johnston. So the two documents that we're looking at, one in the upper left-hand corner says earned income tax collections. The other one is for property tax collections. And this is really a precursor to how the budgeting is going to go this next round. And what we're looking at, first we'll look at the earned income tax collections. And what I've done here is I put together a comparison of 2018-19 compared to 2019-20 compared to 2020-21 as it stands year to date. So what we know is that the pandemic has caused a significant increase in unemployment. And one of our concerns going into this budget year was, will we see a significant reduction in our earned income tax collections? So what I want to draw your attention to is, if you look at the 2019-20 total at the bottom, that's $811,000, which is what we collected in 2019-20. And what I want to know, or what I've been trying to track, is will we see similar collections in 2020-21? So if you look at the partially completed 2020-21 column, you'll see that we did see a larger than normal collections in July, but you'll see that going through July and into October, we started to see a lag in our earned income tax collections. You'll see that, yes, between July, August, September, and October, we have a net positive $774.90. However, you'll notice that in October, we were $10,000 behind what we collected in October last year. So what we're starting to see is a potential lag in earned income tax collections in this fiscal year. Now, I'll preface that lag by saying one thing. This month that we're in right now, November, is an end of a quarter remittance month. So we typically collect north of $125,000 in earned income tax collections in November. To date, this month, we've only collected $44,000. So this will be the telling month as to whether or not we're going to see a lag for at least a few months in earned income tax collections. So I'm just putting this on your radar and letting you know that there is seemingly a lag in tax collections right now. How large that will be more apparent to us at the end of this month. So I'll bring that back to you again next month. Any questions on earned income tax collections? Okay. The second document is property tax collections. And so how these two play in. So the earned income tax collections, if people aren't working and earned income tax isn't being remitted, that's lost dollars. Those are lost dollars. We will never see those dollars. There's no way to make that money up. Property tax collections are a little bit different. So if you don't pay your property taxes in the fourth year, your property goes into a sheriff's sale, and eventually once the property sells, the taxes are remitted to the district. So eventually the district will get its property tax. So in our conversations about the budget for this year, we talked about delinquent property taxes as being more of a deferred sort of revenue, in that we may see a lag in collections for this year. However, that lag will occur over 3 years, potentially over 3 years if people don't pay their property tax. So if we look at the first box at the top here, we're looking at Clymer's collection rate. The first box is 2019, which would have been the August of last year through December. We levied $576,000, and of that we collected $510,000. Okay, so it left us a delinquent balance of $66,305. That's an 88.5% collection rate in Clymer, roughly. if you look at what we collected from August to October of 2019, we collected $403,000 in 2019. Go down to the next box and you'll see in 2020, we're actually up in cash collections between August, September, and October to $447,000. That's a positive. There's a couple of things that factor into why we have an increase in cash collections to this point. One, we know that escrow payments are always made in the discount period. Okay, so that's when all escrow payments are made in the discount period. So we will always collect the majority of our cash up front. Secondly, 80% of property tax collections are made in the discount and face period. So what we're seeing now is during the face period, we're seeing remittance of an increase in the property tax levy over last year. So even though we've collected $44,000 in cash more this year than we did last year to date, that is not our indicator of whether or not we're doing well. What is an indicator, however, though, if you look at the two percentages to the right, you'll notice that the percent of 2020, so what percent of what we levied have we collected so far in 2020 in Clymer? We've collected 76.14% of the levy. Okay, that's pretty good. You'll notice that above there, we collected 88.5% last year. So we're well on our way. We've got 2 months left before things go to the courthouse and go into delinquent status. If you look at what percent of 2019 we've collected almost 90% of the levy that we assessed in 2019. So we're well on our way. But here's what we know. If there's going to be a lag in tax collections, in property tax collections, it's going to be this month and next month, because this is the penalty period. Okay, these are the people who have waited until the penalty period to pay. And if we're going to see delinquency, it's going to be in this period. So just going down, looking at Pine, you'll see that Pine, very similar numbers, but a little higher. If you look at the Pine 2020 summary, the percent of 2020 that we've levied, we've collected almost 83% of the levy. If you look at what we've actually collected compared to 2019, we've collected almost 97% of the levy in 2019. If we compare 2020 collections to the levy in 2019. So the reason why I made that comparison is, at a minimum, we can sustain operations if we at least collect what we levied last year, right? So we'll know what the loss is over a period of time if we at least collect the 2019 levy. And if you go down to Cherry Hill, you'll also notice that the collection down there is pretty good as a comparison to 2020 and also the comparison to 2019. So while I don't want to say it's bad news, it's not great news given we only have a month and a half left of collections in the collection year. And we are starting to see a lag in both earned income tax collections and property tax collections. I hope to have better news for you at the end of December, nearing a more in-depth discussion on the budget, but I just wanted to give you an up-to-date where we're at on property tax and earned income tax collections now. So any questions?
Okay, seeing no questions, let me continue with my report. I just want to go down through the agenda first, and then there's a couple other items I'd like to talk to you about this evening. First, this evening, we're asking you as a board to approve 2 tax abatement applications this evening under Budget and Finance. We're also asking you to approve a quote from Builders Hardware to replace 3 metal doors located in our basement of our high school. We're also asking you to approve a winter sports volunteer this evening. Under policies, we're asking you to approve and adopt policy 309, which is a complete new policy for us in regards to telework. Then we also have a series of revisions that we're asking you to approve in the areas of 113 and 123, 122. And those revisions are standing the same as we discussed last Thursday. Under new business, we're asking for you to approve the hiring of Michael Buterbaugh as a custodial maintenance staff member. We're also asking you to approve the transfer of Emily Dosboy from cleaner to cafeteria monitor. Also asking you to approve substitutes for the school year. Also asking you this evening to approve the resignation of Mrs. Henderson as our musical director. Asking you to approve a stipend to be paid to the Community Guidance Center for the counseling piece that any student that we send to the Guidance Center, that stipend covers the counseling piece. for the cost while the student is attending the Community Guidance Center, the Alpha program. Also asking you to approve a teacher for tutoring instructor as a tutoring instructor after school. Also asking you to approve an outside placement for a student. Also asking you to approve to allow administration to dispose of any obsolete technology equipment that its life has expired here at the district. Also asking you to approve the posting of an FRP, photography services, so that we can come back to you and have a selection for school photographer starting the next school year. Also asking you to approve National Honor Society advisor, Mrs. Stewart at the high school. We're also asking you to approve us holding our reorganization meeting in December on December 3rd. Couple other items that I do want to call your attention to is that we did hold a veterans program this past yesterday, actually Wednesday. So hats off and thank you to Mr. D. Fulton, to Mr. Rode, Mrs. Cessna, Mr. McCauley, and Mrs. Bodek, and a number of other individuals that helped in actually doing a tribute to our veterans. So again, I want to thank them for putting all that together. They did all the work. Also want to remind everyone that we will be holding parent-teacher conferences the afternoon and evening of November 24th. Those will all be done by telephone or via Zoom if you've set that up. We ask that if you want to have a parent-teacher conference that you do call in to the appropriate school, either the elementary or the high school, to schedule those parent-teacher conferences. And also this evening, I do want to talk about the position that we are in as a school district addressing COVID cases. So I just want to go back for anyone that's listening and talk about history and then come forward. And the reason why I want to take time is to emphasize this. I have to say thank you to everyone that works here for making us progress through day by day for in-person instruction. Also have to say thank you to the parents that are out there. We can't ask any more as administration to parents that when you suspect a case or someone needs to be quarantined or someone has tested positive, you're calling us before the Department of Health actually gets to call us. So hats off to parents. We appreciate having that open communication because it helps us work ahead, actually. So thank you to everyone getting us through to ending the first marking period into the second for in-person instruction. So let's just go back in history a little bit since March of last year. I just want to explain that we watch and monitor the cases within the district. So I just want to give you a little bit of history if you're new listening with us this evening. Take a look daily at all the cases within our school district. So that's any aged person in our district. And I look at the confirmed cases of positive testing. So I just want to go down through those quickly as of today. So from March of last year, when we actually were shut down as a school district due to COVID-19 to today. So when I look at the zip codes that's within our school district today, the zip code of Howard has 6 confirmed cases. Again, this is all ages, not just school age students. In the Alberta zip code, there are none that are confirmed positive cases. In the Strongstown zip code, there are 7 confirmed cases to date. In the Penn Run zip code, there are 22 from March to today. In Clymer zip code, there are 39 confirmed cases from March to today. So that gives us a total cases in our reported positive cases within the boundaries of our school district of any age of any individual, a total of 74 confirmed cases since March. Now, looking at us as a school district, I do want to go back clear to the beginning and just explain to anyone that's listening that here are the individuals that we've had to date. So first, we had an employee back on July 29th. Then moving forward in the calendar to September 16th, we had another employee tested positive. Then on September 17th, we had our first student test positive. And then we did very well till just lately. And that's why I wanted to talk this evening, because all of us sitting in this room or either online or you're listening as parents or even students, we have come into a week of more positive individuals within the district. So again, we had 3 up till September. And then on November 2nd, we had a student confirmed positive case. The next case we had was November 6th, and that was a student. Then on November 10th, we had another student, and then actually a confirmed employee. So let me talk to you a little bit about those are the cases so far since March that are positive, that whether that's an employee or a student in our district. But I do also want to be transparent and let everyone know this, that we currently have 64 students at the high school that are quarantined. We currently have 19 students at the elementary that are quarantined. So let me talk about that group of quarantined group of individuals. So on November 2nd, that positive case contributed about 15 students to that quarantine list. So when that person on November 2nd, parents let us know. We also confirmed with the Department of Health. We found within our district in direct contact by the Department of Health's definition, approximately 14, 15 students that were quarantined. Those students are expected to return on this coming Monday. Then on November 6th, the next confirmed student actually was part of the quarantined group for November 2nd. So I just want to point out that when we do quarantine, it actually works. So I just want to point that out. And then on November 10th, we had another student that was a confirmed case, and that was another 14 students at the high school. So you may say, well, Mr. Johnston, what about the other half? So again, let me talk about the other half of those 64. Those students are being quarantined due to the fact that parents are contacting us. So either mom or dad or someone within the family or a student has been in contact with them. So parents have let us know that. I then confirm that with the Department of Health, and those students are quarantined too. So again, 64 students are currently quarantined. 14 of them should return on Monday because their quarantine is up. Half of that 64 is not related to the cases that we've had here at the school. Those are all outside individuals calling us as parents. And again, have to applaud parents for calling us and keeping up with that. So at the elementary, we currently have 19 students that are quarantined. And again, those 19, it's not a current positive case within our district here as a student, but those 19 have been quarantined again because they've been in contact with someone, whether that be mom or dad, whether that be grandma or another relative. Those folks are in quarantine also. So I do want to point out that in the past week, just as you hear on the news, that cases are increasing. Absolutely, they are. You can see that as evidence here in our district. I will say this, that I want parents to understand this evening that we have made a decision as an administration to move forward in-person instruction, but there may become a time in which that needs to change. I will tell you that having 3 cases in our high school is putting us very close to looking at changing something instruction-wise. I'm not saying tonight that that's happening. Our goal is always to do in-person instruction. We know that that's the best academically and best mental health-wise for students to be in person. But we may get to a point, and that's what I want to emphasize to any parent or student that's listening this evening. I am not sitting here tonight saying that we're making a switch, but if we progress with cases, I want to caution every parent tonight to realize that we may need to move to a different instruction model for a period of time, particularly at the high school. And I understand those of you that are parents that are out there listening with elementary. I know what you're thinking. We have to be safe for students. I also know it weighs on your mind that you need to go to work. I know that as a superintendent, we know that as administration, and we will continue to do our best. And the elementary right now, honestly, is at a strength right now. We do hear from time to time a student at the elementary school is being held out to have a test. At this point, in this range so far, those have come out negative. And again, don't know when that will change, if it'll change, but that's our data to this point. But I have to caution everyone to know we realize where we are. And I just want parents and students to realize that if this progresses and we get more cases within a short period of time, we will have to look at a change. With that said, I do have parents asking me this. Well, what happens when there's a positive case? Then I'll end with this. So here's typically what's been happening. A parent will report to an administrator that their son or daughter has tested positive. When that happens, we begin to work. I contact the Department of Health. The Department of Health works with me. As soon as that person is confirmed to be in the system as a positive case, administrators do the following. We help the Department of Health in coming up with a contact tracing list. The Department of Health can also tell us, in speaking with that person that tested positive, who all they feel that they've been in contact with in our district. So we take any names that comes from the person that's tested positive. Let me give you an example in a high school situation. So as soon as we get that positive student, administrators take a lot of time. We talk to every teacher that student has throughout the day. We take a look at the room. We take a look at the date that we need to go back to, and take a look at everyone that was in contact with that student. Again, I just want to emphasize what is contact. So if we have a positive student sitting in a room and other students have been within 6 feet of that positive case student for more than 15 minutes, that individual is placed in that contact tracing list, and those students are quarantined. So if the parent calls us, we begin going through the process of coming up with that entire contact tracing list. Administrators take the time then to call every single parent that is related to a student that's on that contact tracing list. Once all of those phone calls have been made to parents, the administrators will then move and talk to the students themselves if they're here in our building, letting them know that they're going to be quarantined and they'll need to work in Google Classroom. And then they stay out until we confirm with the Department of Health what that date is that those students can return. So that is the process that we go through here at the school. On every case, it doesn't matter if it's a student, if it's an employee, we take the time to view all videotape footage within our district from all of our cameras. We talk to every teacher that a student has. We even go to the bus garage and watch the video of the bus that the student was on. And we are capturing, so to speak, every single person that should be on the contact tracing list as defined by the Department of Health. So again, I just want to end by saying that absolutely cases have increased in our district within the past week. We know that. So I just want to caution parents if that would happen to continue to progress within a short period of time, we would make a decision to do something different in instruction. But I do want to end with this. I need everyone to understand that it also comes down to staffing. So if we get into a situation, you need to understand as parents or students that are listening this evening, if at any morning that I as a superintendent don't feel comfortable that we have enough staff to handle all the students in the day, I will cancel school. And I'm not doing that as anything as on purpose, but listen, I can't be in a situation where I'm corralling students in any room at this point or any time since COVID. So if we don't feel that we have the staff, and you may be sitting at home as a parent or a student saying, what do you mean staff? Every school district, not only ours, has a difficult time getting substitutes. So we are the same as any other district, have very few subs on our sub list. So as people are absent that are employees, if we don't feel that we can staff it and staff it safely, even if it's one day, you need to know that we will cancel school on that particular day. I will openly, honestly tell you, today at the high school was one of those days that was very questionable. And we did get things covered, but we cannot in this day and age think that what we've done a year ago when we've been short on substitutes and we put 3 or 4 classrooms in an auditorium, that just doesn't work. And that's against everything that we're trying to do. So if we get into that situation, please understand it's not anything that I want to do, but I will keep our students safe, meaning that we will have them not corralled in an auditorium or a gym to get through a school day. That just cannot happen. So just wanted to make sure that I pointed out to parents, please know our situation. I've given you the history. Anytime that you want to know anything about our current state, please call my extension at the district office, send me an email. I'll give you up-to-date information. You all have been helping us tremendously. I certainly don't want to break any bridge with anyone. So if you're wanting to know information for our district, please call and ask. But I have given you the summary this evening of the past history, what we do if we have a case, and also the current situation we're in, that if we continue to get positive cases within a short period of time, we probably will need to consider moving to something different for instruction. And that's all I have, Mr. Packer.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johnson. Are there any questions on any of the other reports? Any old business? Mrs. Eckenrode, no negotiations?
Nothing tonight, Mr. Packer.
Okay, thank you. And there's nothing for curriculum. Let's move on to budget and finance. Mr. Belcher.
I have 2 items tonight, both to approve tax abatement applications. The first one is I'd like to make a motion to accept and approve, subject to review by the County Board of Property Assessment Appeals and the Chief Assessor, the new home construction tax abatement application of Carson Ray, 1060 Clymer Road, Clymer, PA, 15728, for the school real estate tax exemption for a period of 24 consecutive calendar months, starting with the effective date as determined by the County Board of Assessment Appeals. A copy of the application will be forwarded to the County Board of Property Assessment Appeals and Chief Assessor for review. I made the motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Belchick and a second by Mr. Hardesty.
Questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Tate,
Yes.
Mr. Belchick,
Yes.
Dr. Boston,
Yes.
Mrs. Eckenrode,
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty,
Yes.
Mr. Larch.
Yes.
Motion carries.
The next motion is also to approve tax abatement application. I'd like to make the motion to accept and approve, subject to review by the County Board of Property Assessment Appeals and the Chief Assessor, the new home construction tax abatement application of Robert Packer, 757 Route 580 North, Clymer, PA, 15728, for the school real estate tax exemption for a period of 24 consecutive calendar months, starting with the effective date as determined by the County Board of Assessment Appeals. A copy of the application will be forwarded to the County Board of Property Assessment Appeals and Chief Assessor for review. I made the motion.
Second it.
I I have a motion by Mr. Belchick and a second by Mrs. Tate.
Questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Tate,
Yes.
Mr. Belchick,
Yes.
Dr. Boston,
Yes.
Mrs. Eckenrode,
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty,
Yes.
Mr. Larch,
Yes.
Mr. Packer.
I abstain.
Motion carries.
That's all I have, Mr. Packer.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Belchi. Mr. Moscatello,
Yes, sir.
for the first tax abatement,
Yes.
Mr. Saffron says he has 6.
I already counted 6 votes. I could have missed one.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I had already counted 6 votes on the number 1.
Let me see.
So I just wanted to make sure that I may have missed it. But
I had yays for Mr. Belchick, Dr. Boston, Mrs. Eckenrode, Mr. Hardesty, Mr. Larch, and did I call your name, Mr. Packer? And Mr. Packer and Mrs. Tate I started with.
okay,
So I have seven yays.
so
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moscatello.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Mr. Belchick. Mr. Plenick's not here for buildings and grounds. We have one item, and that is to approve a quote from Builders Hardware. Can we have a motion to approve a quote from Builders Hardware to complete an installation of replacing 3 door frames and doors within the district at a cost of $6,281.50 as presented? Can we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Eckenrode, second by Mr. Larch.
Questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Tate? Mr. Belchick?
Yes.
Dr. Boston?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckenrode?
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty?
Yes.
Mr. Larch?
Yes.
Mr. Packer?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I'm
Okay,
sorry, Josh, you got mine, right? Yes.
I did.
I couldn't tell if I muted,
Okay.
unmuted or not. Okay.
okay, Athletic Committee, Mr. Larch.
Yes, we have one item. Approve winter sports volunteers. I'd like to make a motion to approve Autumn Fennel as volunteer for the girls basketball program for the 2020-2021 school year, pending the receipt of all current clearances, cardio and impact testing, and the coaching education courses as required by PIAA.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Larch, a second by Mrs. Tate.
Are there any questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Tate?
Yes.
Mr. Belchick?
Yes.
Dr. Boston?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckenrode?
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty?
Yes.
Mr. Larch?
Yes.
Mr. Packer?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, Transportation Committee, Mrs. Tate.
Yes, I have one item tonight, approved drivers for the 2020-2021 school year. I would like to make the motion to approve the following bus drivers and substitutes for Tri-County Transportation for the 2020-21 school year. Gilbert Roof, Polly Sinclair, Jarrett Blystone, Kevin Wirtz, Marlon Yates, Stephen Richards, Brianna Riddle, Layla Engel, Mariana Meisel, Darrell DeShong, Nicole Williams.
I'll second.
Motion by Mrs. Tate, a second by Mrs. Eckenrode.
Questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Tate?
Yes.
Mr. Belchick?
Yes.
Dr. Boston?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckenrode?
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty?
Yes.
Larch?
Yes.
Mr. Packer?
Yes.
Motion carries.
That's all I have, Mr. Packer.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Tate. There are a number of policies that need approved this evening. On 18A, can we have a motion to approve and adopt policy 309.1 telework as presented? All board policies also appear on the district's website. Can we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Larch, a second by Mrs. Eckenrode.
Are there any questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Tate,
Yes.
Mr. Belchick,
Yes.
Dr. Boston,
Yes.
Mrs. Eckenrode,
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty,
Yes.
Mr. Larch,
Yes.
Mr. Packer.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, the following are revisions. Can we have a motion to approve the revisions to the following policies as presented? And again, all board policies appear on the district's website. 113.1, discipline of students with disabilities. 123, interscholastic athletics. 113.4, confidentiality of special education student information. 122, extracurricular activities. 123.2, sudden cardiac arrest. 113.2, behavioral support. And I guess that's it. Can we have a motion to adopt the revisions?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mrs. Eckenrode, second by Mrs. Tate.
Are there any questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Tate,
Yes.
Mr. Belchick,
Yes.
Dr. Boston,
Yes.
Mrs. Eckenrode,
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty,
Yes.
Mr. Larch,
Yes.
Mr. Packer.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, any correspondence this evening?
No correspondence this evening.
Okay, we'll move on to new business, beginning with hiring of the custodial maintenance. Can we have a motion to hire Michael Butterbaugh as an 8-hour-a-day custodial maintenance employee effective November 16, 2020 at the probationary rate of $9 per hour for the first 60 workdays and $12 per hour thereafter, as per the current contract between the district and the Penns Manor Area Education Support Association dated July 1, 2020 through June 30, 2024.
I'll make the
I'll make the
motion.
motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Hardesty,
Second.
second by Mr. Larch.
Are there any questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Tate,
Yes.
Mr. Belchick,
Yes.
Dr. Boston,
Yes.
Eckenrode,
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty,
Yes.
Mr. Larch,
Yes.
Mr. Packer.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, on our 20B, hire cafeteria monitor. Can we have a motion to hire Emily Desboy as a 3-hour per day elementary cafeteria monitor effective November 24, 2020? That's a probationary rate of $9 per hour until the completion of her probationary period and $10.55 per hour thereafter, as per the current contract between the district and the Penns Manor Education Support Association dated July 1, 2020 to June 30, 2024. Can we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mrs. Eckenrode, a second by Mrs. Tate.
Are there any questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Tate,
Yes.
Mr. Belchick,
Yes.
Dr. Boston,
Yes.
Mrs. Eckenrode,
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty,
Yes.
Mr. Larch,
Yes.
Mr. Packer.
Yes.
Motion carries.
20C, approve the substitute list for 2020-21 school year. Can we have a motion to approve the following day-to-day substitute pending receipt of all current clearances for the 2020-21 school year? Juliana Ondeco, math 7 through 12.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Larch, a second by Mrs. Tate.
Are there any questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Tate,
Yes.
Mr. Belchick,
Yes.
Dr. Boston,
Yes.
Mrs. Eckenrode,
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty,
Yes.
Mr. Larch,
Yes.
Mr. Packer.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, 20D, accept the resignation of musical director Can we have a motion to accept the resignation of Olivia Henderson as the musical director effective immediately, and to grant the administration permission to post and advertise if necessary for this position?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Tate, a second by Mrs. Eckenrode.
Are there any questions? Roll call?
Mrs. Tate,
Yes.
Mr. Belchick,
Yes.
Dr. Boston,
Yes.
Mrs. Eckenrode,
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty,
Yes.
Mr. Larch,
Yes.
Mr. Packer.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, 20E, approve annual stipend with Community Guidance Center. Can we have a motion to approve payment of $2,853.72 to the Alpha program of the Community Guidance Center in Indiana, PA, for mental health therapy and academic assistance for Penns Manor Area School District students during the 2020-2021 school year?
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Tate, a second by Mrs. Eckenrode.
Are there any questions? Roll call?
Mrs. Tate,
Yes.
Mr. Belchick,
Yes.
Dr. Boston.
Yes.
Mrs. Eckenrode,
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty,
Yes.
Mr. Larch,
Yes.
Mr. Packer.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, 20F, approve after-school tutoring instructor. Can we have a motion to hire Lee Kazumchak as an after-school tutor for the 2020-21 school year at the compensated rate of $40 per hour as per the collective bargaining agreement between the Penns Manor Area School District and the Penns Manor Education Association dated August 1, 2019 through July 31, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Hardesty and a second by Mr. Belchick.
Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Tate,
Yes.
Mr. Belchick,
Yes.
Dr. Boston,
Yes.
Mrs. Eckenrode,
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty,
Yes.
Mr. Larch,
Yes.
Mr. Packer.
Yes.
Motion carries.
20G, approve outside student placement. Can we have a motion to approve the enrollment of Penns Manor Area student XXXXXX2508 into an outside placement at Presley Ridge?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Eckenrode, a second by Mr. Hardesty.
Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Tate,
Yes.
Mr. Belchick,
Yes.
Dr. Boston.
Yes.
Mrs. Eckenrode,
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty,
Yes.
Mr. Larch,
Yes.
Mr. Packer.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, 20H, approved disposal of obsolete technology equipment. Can we have a motion to authorize administration to dispose of obsolete technology that has been deemed to have no useful life and is unable to serve any useful purpose?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Larch and a second by Mrs. Tate.
Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Tate,
Yes.
Mr. Belchick,
Yes.
Dr. Boston,
Yes.
Mrs. Eckenrode,
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty,
Yes.
Mr. Larch,
Yes.
Mr. Packer.
Yes.
Motion carries.
20I, approval to post request for proposal for photography services. Can we have a motion to grant administration permission to advertise a request for proposals for photography services for school photos for the 2021-2022 school year?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Larch and a second by Mrs. Tate.
Are there any questions? Roll call?
Mrs. Tate,
Yes.
Mr. Belchick,
Yes.
Dr. Boston.
Yes.
Mrs. Eckenrode,
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty,
yes,
Mr. Larch,
Yes.
Mr. Packer.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, 20J, hire National Honor Society advisor. Can we have a motion to hire Emily Stewart as a National Honor Society advisor effective November 12, 2020 at the rate of $610.85, prorated to actual days remaining in the 2020-2021 school year as per the current collective bargaining agreement between the Penns Manor Area School District and the Penns Manor Education Association dated August 1, 2019 through July 31, 2022.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mrs. Eckenrode, a second by Mrs. Tate.
Are there any questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Sure. Mrs. Tate?
Yes.
Mr. Belchick?
Yes.
Dr. Boston?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckenrode?
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty?
yes,
Mr. Larch?
Yes.
Mr. Packer?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, 20K special meeting. Can we have a motion to schedule a special meeting of the Penns Manor Area School District Board of Directors for the purpose of the reorganization on December 3, 2020 at 7 p.m. The meeting will be held on site in the district's multi-purpose room and will also be streamed live on the district's YouTube channel.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hardesty, a second by Mr. Larch.
Questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Tate?
Yes.
Mr. Belchick?
Yes.
Dr. Boston?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckenrode?
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty?
Yeah, yes,
Mr. Larch?
Yes.
Mr. Packer?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Under 20L, student recognition, PMEA Student of the Month for November is Riley Schaefer. And can we have a motion to approve the following field trips or conferences that's included in your packet?
I'll second it.
Motion by Mrs. Tate, second by Mr. Hardesty.
Any questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Tate?
Yes.
Mr. Belchick?
Yes.
Dr. Boston? Dr. Boston?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckenrode?
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty?
Yes,
Mr. Larch?
Yes.
Mr. Packer?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, and in the way of upcoming meetings, reorganization meeting now will be December 3rd at 7 p.m. The committee meeting will also be December 3rd. They'll be immediately following the reorganization meeting. And the next business meeting will be December the 10th, 2020 at 7 p.m. And I think we're going to move to executive session for personnel reasons after.
Yes. Before we do, can I just add one other?
I want to add one thing too. I did
Okay.
not have a chance to see this,
Go ahead.
but I heard we had a excellent video that's produced on Facebook.
It's true. Correct.
And if you could direct people to the right site, it recognized some of our veterans here,
Absolutely.
like two that we have sitting out here this evening, Mr. Dalton and Mr. Grimaldi,
That's
and a
correct.
couple others. But if you could direct the people to that,
Sure.
I'm sure they'd appreciate
Sure.
it. I heard it was well done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we have Mr. D. Fulton has put together for us as part of the veterans program that I talked about earlier in the meeting. And it's actually a tribute to the veterans that we have as employees, also veterans within our community. And it is a video clip. We did place it out on Facebook, but we will also make sure that we have it and a link starting tomorrow for anyone that missed it. We will make sure it's out there so that you can see that as part of that program. So
Okay.
thanks to everyone who was involved in producing that. And that was Mr. D. Fulton, along with Mr. Peronish and his class. I failed to recognize Mr. Peronish when I listed the group early in my report, but it was also him and along with his students that put that together with Mr. Fulton.
Very good. Did you have something else?
Yes.
You wanted?
So I just also wanted to mention, I failed to explain when I was talking about COVID cases. So if you're a parent or a student that's out there, and students see this because they would see it in the cafeteria, so it's mainly for parents, to know that once we have a positive case and we have talked with the parents of every student that's on the contact tracing list, along with those students that are on the contact tracing list, we do a public announcement, and that is actually placed once everyone's notified that it pertains to in a case. We also then do the general notice to the public. That's posted on the website along with Penns Manor Facebook page and also Twitter. So I just wanted to make sure that you knew that every time that we do have a positive case and everyone involved in that particular case is notified, we do then announce to the general public about that case. And we do then need to have executive session, but nothing will come out of that we need to go back into a meeting. Personnel.
Okay, so for all the board members that are participating at home, please stay on the line. Okay, any other business that needs brought before the board this evening? Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.